What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Around the VLA. My name's Rob St. Clair. That is Vince Zanzuki live from Phoenix. It is the off season, boys and girls. Last time we did a show was just before VLA Tier 1 Championships. That is over, and we've got a couple months of no volleyball, but we wanted to hop in and wrap up just kind of everything that went down in the 2022 Volleyball League of America season, talk about Tier 1 Championships, talk about all VLA teams, and get our board insider Vince in here to give us a little foreshadowing of what's going on next with the league. So, Vince, what's up, dude? How's it going down in Phoenix right now?
It's finally starting to cool off a little bit. We've had some rain. It's not too bad, but big announcement. Obviously, I'm going Team ECV this year. No, no. I'm still Phoenix Ascension. Todd didn't do the match the contract I was asking for, so yeah, I didn't transfer teams this season, but I'll still be with Ascension. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge bidding war over Vince's services.
Yeah, no, I send it out there.
That's awesome. I'm getting chirped in the chat for my glasses. It's funny because I have a ring light in front of me. And I think that like in the lenses of my glasses, you can see the ring light, so that probably looks pretty goofy. But
Oh
uh,
yeah,
I'm leaving them on because it turns out I can't see all that well, and I actually need to wear these. So no making fun of me is allowed. Yeah. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a chill show. I just wanted to hop on and chat a little bit about the just recap the season, see what's going on with the VLA this offseason, get some of Vince's thoughts, Vince's takes, because Vince, you and I were there in Chicago for the very end of the regular season. How many matches did we play again? I can't remember. I kept saying the number.
100
Uh,
was it 60?
169 matches. Ridiculous.
169. There it is. Yeah.
And so match number 169 resulted in this. Team LVC wins the 2022 Volleyball League of America Championship. They beat the Chicago Icemen 3-1 in the final. The final was ridiculous. You guys should all go back and watch it here on the YouTube channel. That was a great match. Of all the matches that we played this season, this was among the very best, and definitely what the matchup that we needed to see and the level of volleyball that the season championship deserved. We brought Nick Scherzian in after all this time, been talking him up. He came back for Team LVC, was amazing. Joby Ramos named the MVP of the season, which we'll get to later, for being just a monster throughout the year. All sorts of great thoughts that I got on court from LVC immediately after they won. They had incredible things to say. So many of those guys have been playing with the Flamingo on their jersey for well over a decade, and all of them, Hosley, E, Lance, Jordan, Coach CJ, like Dave, all the guys that have been there forever, saying, "Oh yeah, this of all the tournaments that they've won with LVC, that was the best one." So, wanted to once again congratulate Team LVC on their season-long championship. It was incredibly impressive, the level of volleyball that they sustained from February all the way through July. Vince, you saw it. You were there. What were your reactions to LVC winning the championship?
Oh man, I got to experience it firsthand. They in pool play, I think we caught them when they were really catching their stride, and I mean, just fantastic serving. Extremely solid blocking scheme. They passed amazing. Like everything they did was just solid, and you could tell that they were there to win that tournament. I mean, not that any other team wasn't there trying to win the tournament, but just from match one against Pineapple, which they actually I thought they played a little bit better in that match, but they definitely they hit their stride against us and completely obliterated us. I mean, you see those scores; we had scored more than 15 points, and we were actually playing really well, I thought. So I mean, just that they were that tuned and into what they were doing. I felt like they were going to be unstoppable at that point. I thought after they beat us 3-0, I was actually surprised they even lost a set to Iceman in the championship. So they were primed and ready to roll. They looked fantastic. Interesting stat on that. That is the first time that they've beat Iceman since the 2020 opening match that they played when they beat them in 5, the first match they ever played in VLA. So just kind of came full circle in my opinion for them. I think that they got the right guy. Obviously, Joby Ramos. Nothing against Christian Smith or anything like that, who set for them last year. But Joby definitely was the key for this team's success. And I mean, he had a lot of weapons to go to, but they looked great, and he was definitely the glue that kept them all together.
Yeah, really well said. You're right that we've talked to Team LVC a lot. We know that Hosley and CJ and all the LVC guys, they consider the Chicago matchup a rivalry. They've been playing against each other since long before the VLA was around. And you'll ask any of the LVC guys that they were usually not on the right side of that particular matchup. I know last year Iceman beat him, I think 3 out of 3 times. Way back before the VLA was ever even around. These teams have been playing each other for a long time, and Chicago had previously had kind of the better of that matchup for the most part. So I know that how satisfying it was for LVC to get that particular match done in the final. And I was not surprised that Chicago took a set of 26-24 there in the second, because there was some ridiculously good volleyball being played, and they figured out a couple ways to score some points on serve against that LVC team, which was really surprising because they, like you said, Vince, looking at how LVC was playing in pools, they just had no weaknesses. But Chicago was able to get enough. They just touched some balls blocking that they were able to run in transition, and that's a team, Chicago being a team that can beat you serving, blocking, or transition offense. And they had to find they weren't gonna get very many ace serves against a reception unit of Wickens, Evans, and Schergen. And they weren't going to stuff block that many balls with how smart those attackers were, but they were able to slow a couple down and run them in transition. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. I do want to talk about Chicago, Vince, again, because we've talked about it throughout the year. Lineup management. It's weird to continue to second guess the lineup choices of the Chicago Icemen team, but for some reason they get into big moments, big tournaments, elimination matches, and hindsight's 2020 obviously, but there's a pattern here. They don't seem to be making the right choices very consistently, and it once again they had a great opportunity to win a huge tournament and it slipped through their fingers.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is with their squad, they are through and through extremely talented, and perhaps more talented than any team. I mean, you look at them even against LVC, and you might think that you would take a lot of these guys over some of the other guys, some of the LVC guys. If you're on paper going the fantasy draft or whatever, here, I'm going to grab, maybe a Sunil over a Joby on paper, right? But the thing is that I don't feel like they have that guy like when they won the 2020 championships where they had Dave Weisler. I don't think they have the guy who's going to win the match for them. Where I feel like with LVC, I think any one of those guys was ready to win that match, where they were kind of prepared to take on that role. Even Dave Evans, I think, that was plenty ready to go and step up and win a championship for him, I felt like Iceman just didn't have that guy. It's like, okay, who do we go to at the very end to score us the late, those late points that we need to push us over the top. The guy that we're going to be able to jump on top of and ride a little bit to where, okay, the focus comes on here, and then you can spread the offense from there. I felt like the offense was already so well spread that the LVC just had to kind of play their game. It wasn't like they could get thrown off a little bit from a primary hitter or primary attacker. So just my opinion about it, obviously, but watching Iceman this year, I felt like, yeah, you can look at definitely lineups could have been a little bit different, but I feel like as great as every single player is on Iceman, they just didn't have the one guy step up for them to take control of the event.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good take. I mean, we've kind of been waiting for Griffin Shields to step up and be that guy on the right side, and he had a good season, but in huge matches. I mean, in the championship, he actually went to the bench, I think, in set 3 for Dave Hancock, who on the roster is a middle. Although he played opposite in the Czech Republic this past year, like came in and played really well, but like that's kind of a guy that I think Chicago's been looking for to do that for him. They have so many outside hitters. Like in that one, they started Kyle Overby, Mike Mikolau. You're never going to go wrong with those two guys. But you have Matt Slavinsky and Will Kraft on the bench. I mean, it's a difficult thing for them to pick who they're going to go with. And I remember we talked about events on this show right before the tournament happened. who does Chicago settle upon as their starting 7 when they get down to try and win a championship? And I just don't. I don't know if I really saw it. And sure, if they have one guy who they can set 30 balls to in a match and give them 25 points with like 3 aces, 3 blocks, or they don't really have that guy right now. Which I think you made a great point. That then doesn't make LVC have to do anything special in adjusting to what Chicago does defensively. They can just kind of do their thing. They can keep everything on their side, keep the offenses balanced as they want, try and keep the middle involved. And that was it. So sure enough, LVC gets the better of that matchup in the biggest moment. I want to go through kind of the rest of the tournament to how we got there. You talked about pools. LVC won their pool pretty comfortably. They dropped that one to Team Pineapple, but yeah, dude, that match that they played against you in the Ascension, not close. It's one of the, if we had a clock on those matches, that might have been the fastest 3-0 of the entire season, maybe. And in the other pool, we actually had some really good stuff. That second set of Chicago versus SoCal, Icemen versus Rising Tide, going all the way to 35-33. That was a good one. But Chicago ended up winning that pool. And then into the bracket, we had 2 pretty nutty 5-setters at the end of that Saturday, which you obviously remember really well. It was a crazy day. Gym was really hot. Like floor conditions were a problem. And both of those playing games ended up going 5. So sure enough, Team Pineapple, who barely even got into the playoffs and ended up in the top 4, ended up tied for 3rd. And the Boston Bounce, pretty impressively also, the only one of the teams, the only non-founding 5 team to even make the playoffs. They get all the way to 3rd as well. But really, this was always probably going to be LVC versus Icemen to play for the final. I do want to shout out you, Vince, in the Ascension for a VLA record-breaking 38-36 set to in the consolation game. That was an all-time crazy marathon. What were you guys even talking about on the sidelines when that was going into like record-breaking extra points?
I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed about a lot of those points because we had opportunities that, and nothing against Scott Weiss because he set an amazing tournament. I honestly I had some foot issues, had a couple of steroid injections and whatnot, and I could barely even walk out there. I tried to play a little bit, but had I been 100%, I probably would have played maybe that match. Nothing against Scott, he played amazing. But he did make a few choices in that 38-36 run that ended up, I felt, kind of maybe would have cost us. However, had I played, we probably wouldn't even got to that point. We probably lost with 25-22. But late in that thing, late in that second set, I was definitely thinking, okay, this is where I would go here, and then it went a different way. It didn't work out, and I was thinking, oh, man, we gotta try to, But I don't like to be the guy on the sideline who's trying to dictate what the guys are doing on the court too much. I like to let the guys play, and they did a really fantastic job overall. And that match was really, really solid, considering we both teams really, playing for 5th place. There's only so much to go for, but between us and Rising Tide, there's so much pride between us. We want to beat them every time we play them. Rising Tide feels the same way about us. It's just that classic division rivalry that we have, and so it was definitely a great 5th place match, I think.
Totally, you're right. Like as far as a 5th place match goes, that was a pretty darn good one. I had a great time watching it. So after this tournament, we got to recognize some players, not just for their incredible tournaments that they had, but really the entire seasons. So we named the All-VLA teams, which is, if you've been following along on Instagram, we've released all those guys by now, but we definitely want to shout them out. Before we do that, though, in this LVC photo, you see Joby Ramos and Ricky Vega holding up that red long sleeve. It says Leclerc, number 4. If you guys don't know the backstory about this, that's in honor of a guy named Dane Leclerc. Dane was a Rochester, New York kid who went to go play college at Loyola here in Chicago. And passed away unexpectedly just a couple years ago. And all the guys from Team LVC that are from Rochester, like Owen Wickens, Dave Evans in particular, but turns out Joby Ramos, who's not a New York guy, but they were roommates at some, so I think it was some USA camp or like Pan Am tournament or something like that. So a lot of these guys knew Dane really well as he was a player, and they many times throughout this season. It wasn't just this tournament that they had that exact shirt with them, and it was cool to see everybody's reactions and how emotional all those guys were to have done that with Dane, at least just to kind of pay respects for Dane, with to have his thought on their hearts as they won that tournament. So I certainly wanted to shout that out because that was a really cool moment and kind of what sports are all about. Anything to add to that?
I didn't know a lot of the backstory. I mean, me being in the West Division, didn't really get to follow a lot. I mean, I obviously watching, I get to follow the East Division, from afar. But it was really interesting to hear the story behind it when I was out there, and I mean, it is a fantastic tribute to him, and I mean, it just shows how important he was, obviously, to everyone on that team. And so, I mean, it's a tough situation, but I think that the dedication of it was very well placed, and obviously winning the championship, it's very fitting for it.
Yeah, agreed. So we definitely wanted to give that the respect that it deserves. That was a cool moment. So moving on to the All-VLA teams for 2022, we got to shout out Chris Cons. What a year this guy had. Came fresh back from, I can't remember which Scandinavian country he was in. I think he was in Sweden. I might have kept saying the wrong country during the broadcast. I'm pretty sure he was in Sweden, but comes back from Europe, plays phenomenally well, immediately jumping back in with the rising tide. His connection with Chris Johnson is sick. It's as good as any setter and middle connection in the league. And Khan's like not a big dude, but really does everything so well. I was really impressed with the way that he played at championships. It was cool to have him there, and well deserved. And it's cool that he let us know right as we gave him this honor that he's going to play in Spain this next year. So that's definitely a big step up in terms of contract. So it's cool. Congratulations to Chris. And before we give Vince's thoughts on Chris, having played against him so much, these teams that we named are so the distributions of like which teams got numbers of guys on the first and second teams or whatever, that's determined by their finish of VLA championships, but the awards are given for really the entire season. So we wanted to reward guys who were there from the beginning, or the guys who came back from overseas, jumped right back in with their teams right away, played multiple events, played really well, and then played well at championships. So it is a season-long award that we're looking at here for the All-VLA teams, not just who were the best 7 guys of VLA championships. So Vince, what's your take from a fellow setter on Chris Cons' game this season?
He's fantastic, and one of my favorite things about Chris is that he is a very team-oriented guy, and you recognize that particularly if you go back and watch the Long Beach West Division event. He didn't play a whole lot. He only played one match out there, but he was out there with the guys supporting everyone, everything like that. And a lot of the reason for that, obviously, not because he's not good enough to be out there, but I know that Rising Tide likes to work in a lot of different guys and give up guys opportunities, right?
Chandler Gibb, Rob Malahy, they've got a lot of good setter characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I mean, there's only so much game to go around, but you obviously want these guys not only in the league, but you want them on your team. Right? You wanted Rob Malahy, you want Chandler Gibbs on your roster, right? You're not going to get them if you're not giving them opportunities. So the fact that he was good with sitting the bench and letting those guys have their opportunities and playing, just kind of shows his personality. It's just very, very team oriented, and I mean, but he was so, and I mean, just really the key for their team getting to where they did, because I mean, they really weren't overall throughout the year. I feel like they underachieved based off of the guys that they could have had at certain events, but they didn't. But when you got Chris Kahn showing up to VLA Cup and basically carrying that team, some huge wins over like Team ECB early. I mean, he was the reason they got there, because they could have easily missed the playoffs this year. So it's great to get him that shout out for the second team all setter, and I think that he could have been an MVP this year had they had the right guys around him. Had he had the right roster to set to all season long, I think that he he could be better than his second team all VLA.
Very possibly. So that just means, Chris, when you're back from Spain next spring, we want you to jump right back in, try and see if you can.
Oh no! Actually, I gotta no get you over Ascension. I'm tired of playing you, honestly.
Ooh.
No, we're happy with him at Rising Tide. He's done great.
Next up, All-VLA second team, Dave Evans, outside hitter from Team LVC. And I mean, every time I get to do a broadcast of an LVC game and I get to watch Dave Evans play, I make the same comment because he was Division III National Player of the Year when he played at Stevens. I think that was in 2015. And he's a 6'0" outside hitter, like a 6 rotation guy, only 6 feet, to be National Player of the Year. And I don't want to hear that NCAA Division III is not high level, because it absolutely is. This dude never slows down. Every time I see him play beach, grass, or indoor, he is among the very best players in any gym he walks into or in any tournament he shows up at. And I don't care about his height on the roster. Plays huge, controls the ball great. And like you said, as we were talking about LVC in that championship match, he has a mentality where he can go out and put a team on his back and win you a match or win you a tournament if he needs to do that. And that is such a special skill set that Dave Evans has. It was very well deserved to get him on one of these All-VLA teams. I wouldn't have hated seeing him on the first team, honestly. But really good year for Dave, and a second team, at the very least, extremely well deserved.
Yeah, Dave, one of the main things about him, he was there through I guess I'd say the ups for the entire season for LVC. You know, I mean, they didn't really have many downs. I guess you'd consider, Division Cup maybe a little down just because of running understaffed and everything like that. But I mean, has just been phenomenal all season long, and you see that chemistry that he has with the guys. He's such a vital part to that core group, and he had a fantastic season, and you can't say enough about the guy. Great guy, very positive guy. Good look for the VLA to have a guy like him be kind of a figurehead in it. So I was very happy with the choice of Dave Evans making that second team all VLA.
And someone that young outside hitters of any size can learn a lot from, that's for sure. Speaking of outside hitters that anybody can learn a lot from, our other outside hitter on the VLA second team, John Predney from the SoCal Rising Tide. Speaking of a player with no weaknesses, John Predney, I love watching him play because, I mean, he literally has no weaknesses. Like from West Division Cup all the way back in January when he was there, one of two outstanding outside hitters for the Rising Tide. And every time he shows up, he adds a level of like polish and cleanliness and intelligence at every phase of the game. Outstanding receiver, good server, elite level attacker, right, left, pipe, the whole thing. Just really, really good all-around volleyball player, and a cornerstone of the Rising Tide, at least one of their more consistent players as well. And we know that's something that they struggle with their roster a little bit, but John Predney definitely deserves a shout out, and a big reason why they made the run that they did at VLA championships. Like, they narrowly missed out on playing in the semifinals. Could have easily knocked the team off to go to the finals. Like, this Rising Tide team is good. We've talked about that this year. Predney a big piece, so well-deserved spot, second team All-VLA for 2022. I'll move on, Vince, and I want to give you the floor on this one. The only Ascension representative, unfortunately, but a very well-deserved spot at the opposite, Brian Lewis.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Brian definitely put the team on his back this season and got us to where we went. I don't think that a lot of teams expect us to do as well as we did. I know that we kind of got written off considering he was one of the only returners coming back from a team that lost 8 different players. And so he filled in a role not only as a leader, because that was something that with the previous group that we had, Brian never really was that go-to guy, essentially. I mean, we set him a lot. You know, he's the opposite. You give him the ball. But this was actually a year where it was, if Brian didn't score for us, we lost that match. And a good majority of the time, he actually scored quite a bit for us. So But then also his personality on the court, helping a lot of the younger guys get accustomed to the level of play, because we didn't have any Division I players coming in to fill spots. We brought in a couple of college club players, and just a very, very young team of 20, 23, 24-year-olds that relatively inexperienced for this level, and they were all able to uh, kind of fill in and compete well, because he was very even keeled and kept everyone just in line, I like to say, And so the fact that he played as well as he did, with basically putting the entire weight of the team on his shoulders, he deserved, in my opinion, if we would have finished higher, he would have been first team. But obviously, taking sixth in the event, and I mean, he did fantastic. He wasn't there at the championships because he had his son, and congratulations to him and Sarah, as we've been saying for the past 2 months now. But yeah, I mean, championships, he wasn't able to make it, but I mean, that doesn't mean that he didn't deserve everything that he earned this year. So I know he's very humble about it. He'll probably be like, "Oh, there's so many great opposites this year." I don't really care. He was, in my opinion, the best opposite all season long, and it's just we did the best we could with him to try to get him to where he was, and second team he's happy with, and I'm sure he's going. I'm going to go for first team hopefully next year. So
Yeah, Brian, he really might have been the best opposite in the league this year. Just like, yeah. Come on, Vince, finish higher than sixth so your homie can get a better spot. I'm kidding. Yeah, well deserved for Brian. Such an awesome season and an increased role. Just never ever wavered, never backed down from when the team needed him. And that run that you guys made at VLA Cup, he had a lot to do with winning a couple of those great matches. So huge credit to Brian Lewis, second team All-VLA opposite. Moving on to the middle blockers in the second team. First up is Skylar Kaufman, the big man in the middle for the Boston Bounce. Always a blast to watch this guy. Just huge, 6'9", dominating presence, really good blocker, surprisingly mobile laterally, blocking and attacking, really gets involved in the offense a lot, and just is kind of a guy that you can expect to deliver a point for you in moments that matter. And Boston's got some good middles. Skylar, I would say, was probably the most consistent this year, and I just really like his game, and I love that he's in the league. Another great D3 guy out of MIT. I know Boston's built a lot of their team around some former Division III superstars, but we definitely got to give Skylar Kaufman a shout out. And the other middle blocker, Brandon Poindexter, Boston area guy that plays for the Chicago Icemen, of course. One of my favorite players in the whole league to watch. Crazy high energy, just ridiculously high energy, infectious on the court for the Icemen. And his technical volleyball skill improves every single time I watch him play. He's even starting to be like kind of a factor from the service line, which I never thought I would say, but he's got this deep float serve that he can just tag back lines, and it's actually pretty darn effective. So I love that Brandon's added that. He's super physical, got just a walking highlight reel, and really good consistent season. So I got to give the middle some love. I was a middle for years. I understand how hard and how thankless that position is. So big shout outs to both Skylar and Brandon, second team All-VLA middles for 2022. Vince, having played a little bit of defense in your career, I'll let you talk up this guy, Sean Dryden for Team Pineapple, the second team Libero.
Oh man, Sean Dryden brings something different to the match. He could play outside. He played a lot outside, but I mean, his libero skills defensively, he picks up almost everything. You can hit any speed at him, he'll pick it up. You can hit a cut shot at him, he'll come in there, pick it up. I mean, it's just how active he is back there. I mean, just you can put your best attack at him, and there's a good probability he'll dig it. And it's his energy to the team, his leadership to the team, which is, I think, a lot when they get Luis, when he plays with them, for example, in the championships. You got to have Sean playing outside.
Right.
You
got to have him on the court somewhere. Totally.
Court. And so, I mean, you just love Sean Dryden as a player, as a personality on the court, for fans' sake. I mean, he's a guy that makes the game exciting, and it's something that some teams honestly lack in the VLA at times. You know, you do get some of these matches, and they're playing in front of a crowd, and you know, it's just kind of a, you know, pass that kill, pass that. You know, this guy gets hyped, he gets the crowd involved, and everybody loves it, and everybody loves watching him play. And you know, I mean, he deserves every bit of this the second team selection.
Absolutely. And you kind of saw like Central Division Cup really comes to mind when Team Pineapple had a pretty nice looking roster, but they didn't have a libero. Like they didn't have a true libero. And you really notice Dryden's impact when he's not there and when you don't get to see him play because of how much of a difference he makes. So yeah, incredibly well deserved. Got to give Dryden a huge shout out. And coming back from, I think he didn't play at all last year. I think it was a calf muscle tear, if I remember correctly. I'll have Sean correct me if I'm wrong about what exactly the nature of his injury was, but really good to have him back playing pretty much a full season. He was awesome. So that'll do it for the All-VLA second team. On to the first team. Like these guys, man, you can put these 7 players together and then add the MVP on top of it that we'll get to last. And that I dare you to assemble a team anywhere that can beat these 7 guys. Starting off at the setter position, we talk about him all the time. Sunil Thomas of the Chicago Icemen. First team All-VLA for 2022 from day 1. Match 1 all the way back in Indiana. January. Let's see. Yeah, January 15th.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it. Serve 1.
Serve 1.
He foot faulted.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. He
served 1 of the season?
No, he actually foot faulted. You know, I was like, oh, I remember watching it thinking, I really first served the VLA, we foot fault, right? But after that,
that's awesome.
After that, but Sunil Thomas, go ahead, continue, because obviously, you know, it is Sunil Thomas. I mean, he's
Sunil Thomas. I mean, yeah, the match 1, January 15th, Chicago sweeps Team Pineapples. Sunil's MVP of the match. Like I have it written down the database right here. From serve 1, like we kind of got a picture last season of what the Chicago team is going to look like. They played VLA Cup with Sunil at the helm. They lost in the semifinals to Ruckus. All-time great match. But that was really all we saw of Sunil. We were waiting to see, like, oh, man, how good is the Chicago team going to be if they have him for a full season? And we saw it. They were just ridiculous. And of all, we talked about Chicago's lineup being a little bit indecisive and that coming back to bite them sometimes. This is the one position for Chicago that is never in question. Sunil Thomas is the Chicago Icemen setter for the foreseeable future. As long as he's around, he's the guy. I could see him playing in the VLA for 10, 15 years easily. Still pretty young. I think he's like 25 at most. Got just so much upside, does everything well, ridiculously hard to read as a blocker, makes just opposing blockers just gives him nightmares, lethal from the service line, and can even get up in the front court and make some physical plays. I know I remember him getting Blake Leeson a couple times in that championship match in Chicago, and those 2 college teammates it was fun to watch them interact after those plays. But can't say enough about Sunil Thomas. Ridiculous season. Great to see him play in the VLA in such a large sample size, and can't wait to see him again next year. And one of his teammates, Kyle Overby. Kyle Overby deserves a ton of credit as in first team All-VLA outside hitter for 2022. One of the guys for Chicago that has been there the longest, and not like and so I live in Chicago. I've been watching Kyle play for years, and he just has this magnetic ability about him when he steps into a gym. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody's always kind of looking over their shoulder when he's about to take a rip at a ball because something special can happen at absolutely any time. And I think on the VLA level, that even sometimes gets overshadowed by a couple of his teammates who might be bigger names or come from bigger schools than Lindenwood or whatever. But this might be the closest thing that the Icemen have to a guy that can take over and win them a match. I'm thinking all the way back to January, that same event, like very, very early in the season. That second match, Icemen played Swede, and with a handful of the bench plan for Chicago, they got to set 5, and it was Kyle Overby that put the team on their back, won them that regular season match. He did stuff like that all the time, and he might have the highest contact point on Chicago. We saw that in the finals. He was hitting straight over the top of New York's blockers. He's so well-rounded, controls the ball great on first contact, and it's just kind of so underrated, in my opinion, kind of a quieter player, at least on the VLA stage, that like for me being in Chicago, knowing how much of a kind of a celebrity he is here in the city, it's crazy that not everybody around the league talks about him as one of the best outside hitters we have, but I was thrilled to be able to give him this honor because it was really well deserved the entire season. Kyle was a baller and just a staple for the Chicago Icemen team. So huge congrats to him.
Yeah, and you make a great point. I wanted to say that about Kyle getting this nod because from an outsider of the Central Division, I mean, we obviously see our own divisions quite a bit, and there are some good divisions in the good outsides in the West, some good outsides in the East. But really, I think that the level of outside hitters is so high in the VLA that it really does take something special to stand out at that first VLA level, right? The first team level. And one of the things, too, it takes a lot to stand out on that stacked full Iceman roster. You know what I mean? And so the fact that Kyle was able to stand out this season and really show that he was as close to the guy, as we kind of discussed earlier, as close to the guy as possible for them at this point. I mean, he definitely deserved what he got this year. First team All-VLA, absolutely. And, you know, I look forward to what this team can do with another season, another full season under their belt.
Yep, very well said. Huge shout outs to Kyle for the season that he had. Across from him, the other first team All-VLA outside hitter, Boston Bounce's Jeff Vautrin. What more can you say about Jeff? I mean, we've had him on this show. We had him on the show last year, right as Boston was making their entry into the league just as a Tier 2 program. And not only is Jeff obviously a first-team All-VLA caliber player, he's the guy for the Boston Bounce. He's the Vince Zanzuki of the Boston Bounce. He runs the show for that team.
I was almost first team.
Jeff does so much more than just play. He is their on-court captain. He organizes practice. He organizes travel. He's literally the founder of the franchise. And he does so much. And plus, he coaches, head coach of both the men's and the women's program at his alma mater, LaSalle in Massachusetts. This dude does a lot. And even just at the VLA level. But to get his Boston Bounce team promoted to Tier 1 last year, take them all the way to the playoffs this year, finish third amongst just ridiculous competition, and sustain his level of play as another more slightly undersized outside hitter. This dude at 6'2" maybe goes over the top of double blocks into the deep corner position 5 better than maybe anybody in the league. I'm blown away at the shots that this dude can hit and just the level of his game coming from a program at LaSalle that I didn't know existed before Jeff and Boston joined the league. So not just the other things, the other volleyball hats that Jeff wears, independent of all that, still a first team caliber player and a first team caliber season. So very well deserved for Jeff Vautrin.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially you look at the one characteristic you didn't bring up, his ball control.
Oh, amazing.
Fantastic. I mean, the guy passes nearly perfect every time. His defense is spot on. And again, just the leadership side of him, you can't replace that with just anybody.
Yep, very well said. And Boston is another team, kind of like Chicago, big team, big roster, bunch of bodies. To stand out amongst a lot of really good players is pretty impressive, and Jeff Vautrin did. So congratulations, first team All-VLA. At the opposite position, who else? It's Jordan Vari. We've had the treat of watching this dude play for so many years. You and I, Vince, since long before the VLA, back to the PVL era. He's been wearing the flamingo on his jersey for Team LVC since his St. Francis days and maybe even before. And I never get sick or tired of watching Jordan Vari play. So I don't want to hear any argument that he's lost a step. I don't want to hear any of that. He's so consistent. He's always there. He's always a threat. He can take over a game from the service line anytime. He can do just ridiculous, weird things to score out of the back row and out of system situations anytime. Just one of the best, has amazing range. His footwork is obviously really unique and his mechanics are really fascinating, but just a cannon for a right arm and truly ageless. And I just love watching Jordan play. Never get sick of it. And it's cool to see him get to host a trophy at the end of the season. So well-deserved. Jordan Vari, first team All-VLA. And moving on to the middles, Vince, because I know you have plenty of thoughts about these guys. Jordan's teammate, Blake Leeson. What a season.
Yeah, he's all right. No. Yeah, I mean, this guy came in and first event he plays in the actually he was the first
East Division Cup was the first one.
And you look at how amazing he was. Hey, don't get me wrong, Eric Martin can set the ball. All right, so he's gonna make Blake look pretty good, right? Actually, the one event that made me most impressed with Blake was the event number 2, where they played in Boston. He completely dominated both force and balance in those matches, and there was just no stopping him. I think at one point he went to where he sided out all 3 points and then went back and rolled off like 3 or 4 aces. And it's like, this guy is unreal, and you just see the level of energy he brings, the ability to control the net while he's in the front row. I mean, he makes guys hit out line by being the middle blocker, and it's just one of those things that's just remarkable to me, the way he can change an entire match from the middle, because it's a rare thing. We have a lot of great middles in the VLA, but for someone to completely dominate the way that he does, it was really a shame that they didn't have him in at the VLA Cup, him and Marshman both, because I think that you see this if with him and Marshman, even without Nico, I think that you see them in the finals. And no offense to the teams that got there, but Leeson and Marshman make them, in my opinion, the best team overall in both tiers.
Yeah, you can say enough about the level of polish that Blake has in his game. I mean, he came right back from Germany, and in less than a week, he was playing VLA at the East Division Cup. But you're right, that Boston event, it's rare. It's not easy, just because of the nature of the middle blocker position, to see a guy in that position dominate, like legitimately take over a game and dominate the way that we saw Blake do at that event, and at times in Chicago at championships. Like, he owned people like for stretches at a time. It's crazy the amount of influence that he can have at that position. And then you talked about serving. One of the real separating factors for middles in my position, in that position, in my opinion, is serving. Middles serving ability, really underrated, huge value add when there's such a threat. And I mean, there's a pretty big difference in one of the only things really that differentiates like our second team middle blockers, Kaufman and Poindexter, compared to our first team middle blockers, Leeson, and this guy, Matt Walsh. Serving is a huge difference between those two groups of 2 players. I mean, Poindexter and Kaufman are traditional middles. They're not really that much of a factor from the service line. Leeson and Walsh can win you games from the service line, and that's just crazy to me. And Matt Walsh for Team Pineapple gets all the credit in the world. I think, even though I think he might be the tallest player on any roster in the VLA at 6'11". I don't think we have very many other 6'11" guys, but
I think he may be the tallest. Yeah,
I think he's the tallest. But there were times, even in Chicago at championships, that he was the best player on either team for stretches of a time, and to do that in the middle is just crazy. It's so difficult to have that amount of influence when you're playing for only half the rotations, and you can't get set the ball unless the ball's passed extremely well. And Matt Walsh, very quietly, he's not like all that animated of a guy, but he's huge, great attacker, really good blocker. He uses his size extremely well, and then will just rip 4 or 5 aces a match, including several in a row. And he can win you games, and a very quiet but crucially important part of Team Pineapple's season.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite play, I gotta give them a shout out for this one, is we were playing them in that crazy 5-setter at the VLA Cup, nice early in the morning. Actually, Walsh didn't start that match. He came in as a blocking sub in I think set 2 or set 3, and we recognized that there was a blocking sub when he came in. However, they dig a ball. He goes up and he's as a setter position and just dimes a just perfect go ball to Goldsmith, and he crushes it. And we were just like, this guy's a blocking sub. He comes in and he's dishing balls out here. It was amazing. But yeah, it was probably nothing against Pasquale, but that was probably the best set that Tomas saw that entire match, because I mean, it was just amazing. Came fresh out of his hands, nice, clean, just perfect to the antenna, and he came in and crushed it. And I was like, that guy's a blocking sub. Like we should be getting a, like he should have been dumping it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you should get you should get three blockers up against that, but
Yeah.
no, like, tempo ball. That's insane. I want to go back and find that clip. Yeah, Matt Walsh is a treat to watch. Again, even though he obviously has God-given height that you certainly can't teach, but his skill, a really, really, really high level of skill, and a lot of middle blockers can learn something watching this guy, especially from the service line. So, congrats to Matt Walsh. Really, really good season. Last but not least, for the first team, one of my favorite players in the league to watch, Colin Merck, All-VLA first team libero for 2022 from the Chicago Icemen. Of course, I have so much fun watching this kid. He does the craziest, goofiest, nuttiest things at the libero position. He is a total game wrecker for other teams because you just can't serve him. You just can't do it. I saw teams this entire season just try and rip their best serves. And if it happened to be like within Merck's even one arm's reach, they're just getting dimed all the time. And then Chicago's offenses run it right back down their throats. To serve Chicago out of system, you have to hit your best serve that you can and figure out how to locate it into the half of the court that this kid is not standing in. And that is such a difference-making ability that not very many liberos have. Plus, defensively, I mean, he's just ridiculous. The instincts, the speed, and the kind of the flair that he brings to the position is so much fun to watch. And he anchored one of the best offenses that the league has seen all year, and deserves all the credit in the world. And it's cool to see a kid that played at Quincy, which is traditionally the worst team in the MIVA by far, have this good of a career and be such an awesome player. So huge shout outs to Colin Merck.
I'll say this about Merck comparatively across the board here, because you look at the first team opposites. Obviously, nothing against Jordan and his accomplishments, but there's not only Brian, but there's a few other opposites in the league that definitely could challenge that position, right? You've got outside hitters that are we've got a handful of them that those selections could have gone either way. Middles, even Sunil. Had Iceman not had finished as high as they did, could have easily been replaced by maybe Cons. But then you look at the libero spot, and I think that Merck, among every libero in the league, separates himself the furthest from everyone else in that position. I don't think that there was any doubt that Colin wasn't going to get first team. I think that I just think that that's just where he stands amongst all the rest of the liberos, as he is, not just ahead of, but he's head and shoulders above the rest at this time. And I just didn't see another libero out there that was there. I just think that in tier one, he's just by far the best at that position.
The only one I would say is Tim McIntosh from the Northeast Force, but they didn't make the playoffs, didn't get any All-VLA spots. But and Tim is insane. He's in the national team gym right now, and that's well deserved. But this game-breaking ability that Colin Merck has that you don't really notice until you notice how teams serve against the Chicago Icemen. Because it's funny to watch people get frustrated that are just ripping serves as hard as they can, and Merck is just swallowing them up and putting them right on Sunil's head. It's insane how in system that team is just all the time, and how easy Merck makes it look. And then that frustrates teams into overreaching from the service line that commit a lot of errors. It's so difficult to play against this kid, and liberos don't score points. We all know how the position works, but the value of a libero of this caliber cannot be overstated. So it's really cool to give Merck that shine. Very well deserved. And Vince, last but not least, that's the whole first team. We got 2 full teams of 7 players, All-VLA first teams and second teams. Again, I would put any of those guys, any of those teams up against anyone in the world and want to see how that matchup would go. But nobody had the season that Joby Ramos had. Nobody made the difference this season for their team and for the entire VLA like Joby Ramos did. Joby Ramos is the most valuable player for the VLA for 2022, coming in at the setter position for Team LVC, kind of a position that's been a revolving door since they had Christy Blau years ago. Has been the last time that they were really like locked in and settled at that spot, and you can hardly blame Christie for now being a doctor, for not playing too much volleyball anymore. But to pick up this kid from the University of Hawaii and to assimilate him so quickly. He came in that first event to Connecticut when Team LVC went 4-0, and that comeback that they made against the Boston Bounce from down, I think 14-11 in the fifth, to come back and win that match. And there was a different sequence where he ripped 4 aces in a row, and the offense that he set and the defense that he played and just the difference that he made was crazy, because we know LVC. We've seen all of the older LVC guys who have been playing with that team for 10 years. We know exactly what we're going to get out of them. And at every event that Joby was at, he brought that team to a different level. And there were moments in the championship match in Chicago where he made championship defining plays. There was like a goofy save that he made in the third set. There was a ball going to the antenna. He got up there high enough, knuckled it over on the second contact, and scored. Easy 2-point swing, like late in, I think, the third set, if I remember. Like difference making plays, and the consistency and just the night and day difference for LVC when Joby Ramos was at the setter position versus when he wasn't was insane for me to watch. Such a treat to have him this whole season, and a well-deserved most valuable player award for the entire year. It's great to give that to setters because they're not scoring points, but if you really know the game, you can understand the impact that a guy like Joby has.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is again, watching LVC for as long as I personally have, you obviously have, and I think that LVC is one of the better followed teams in the VLA. Or just in the country. You know, there's just they have a great fan base overall, and they're just a recognizable team. And there's a lot of nostalgia behind them. And so it is kind of a big deal when you get one of these guys in there that actually can run the offense with the names that they have. Because like you said, you know what you're going to get from a Jordan Varry. You know, you got, Blake Leeson, you got Marshman. But the other thing, too, is then you also got A.J. Wachowski coming in. You've got all these other guys.
Lance Rogers, Dave Evans, yeah.
When you have Joby out there being the centerpiece for not just the starting seven that won the championship, you're talking Joby went out there and unified an entire roster of 12 to 14 guys who were instrumental in them not only finishing 16-3 in the regular season, but then going and winning the entire championship. Joby unified that entire group. It wasn't like it was just the starting seven. It wasn't like they just had that core group that ran through the entire season. They went 15 to 17 deep throughout the entire year to accomplish what they did. And so, for one, huge shout out to LVC for all their guys coming in, knowing and understanding their roles and contributing. But obviously, the MVP here, Joby Ramos, keeping that an entire core of 15 to 17 guys that's going to contribute all year, and him being the one distributing the ball to all of them, that is a clear-cut MVP in my opinion, and rightly so. He deserves this award.
Well said. It's so great to recognize him for this, and a blast getting to know him this year. I'm really excited to see where he can take this Team LVC team next year, because you better believe they'll be looking for the repeat. So that's it for the All-VLA teams, and that's just to quickly bring up next year, Vince. We've got some dead time now. No VLA volleyball until, at least not for Tier 1, until early 2023. We're putting together a lot of great stuff with the board, all sorts of cool stuff going on behind the scenes as we try to build bigger and better for the future. But before we ask you what we can kind of expect going in the future, put this whole season, this whole 2022 season in perspective from the league side. 169 matches, literally coast to coast, 6 months, 4 cup tournaments, full Tier 1 regular season, the growth of Tier 2, the whole thing. Put the 2022 season into perspective for us, where it places the league kind of in its history, and where do we go from here?
The fact that we were able to pull off such a remarkable first full season, because keep in mind last year was kind of what would we call that?
It was abbreviated. Let's put it that way.
Abbreviated, but it was more of a concept type of thing. We were trying to establish what the VLA actually meant to the community, to the country. And this year we were able to put that on blast and basically said, hey, this is a standard VLA season. And let's face it, the country has never seen anything like this. There has never been there's never been professional indoor volleyball until we did it on ESPN. There, for one, has never been 169 matches of professional competition in the United States before, in any division. I mean, nothing against what PVL was, nothing against what Athletes Unlimited is currently doing, because they, obviously doing some decent things there. But as far as what we accomplished, the reaching as many as many states as we have, having the amount of events that we had, and then having so many teams across the country become a part of the VLA. We're at 27 teams right now, and we are expanding beyond that. It's just been fantastic. You can't say enough about what we accomplished this year, and I know that the people that are following us feel that way. I know that the players, the board is extremely excited. I mean, there is just, at this point, not a whole lot negative, because everything has been moving in the right direction. I think that people understand that we have a vision, and they're on board. I mean, people are on board with us. So it's going to be great to see what we bring in this next 22-23 season. Not to give away too much right now, because that's for another show, but we do have a lot of amazing things on the horizon, and we're excited to bring it to you, because I see Stefan Brule. Huge shout out to Ruckus coach there. More VLA is coming sooner than you think. So make sure you're staying tuned, following our Instagram page, following obviously the VLA YouTube channel, and we've got a lot of great things to bring coming forward. So we're extremely excited about where we're going with this thing.
Absolutely. The tier 2 model has proved itself out to a degree that I don't even know if we expected, Vince. We had no idea the level of support and interest and the level of volleyball that these new teams that we're going to bring, they're just coming out of nowhere, immediately buying into what we're doing at the VLA, showing up at events, playing great ball, and just really proving that what we're doing is working. And that's only going to continue to grow. So we've talked a lot about tier 2 this year. I mean, all 4 VLA Cup Series tournaments were won by tier 2 teams. That level of volleyball is crazy good. We know that Swede won tier 2 championships. They're looking at a tier 1 spot in the Central Division this next season. There's more tier 2 teams popping up. Like, you just like text me randomly, Vince, on a random day, like, hey, there's a team from this random place in the United States. We know this guy, he wants to put a team in. I'm like, cool, awesome. Like, we can't get enough of it. We want anybody out there who wants to get involved any way you can. Do it. Get your teams together. Put them in. As the league continues to grow, we're going to give everybody a chance to play somehow, and that the details of that will come out more and more. The tier 1, tier 2, that'll never go away. We're going to keep doing what we do bigger and better, and more opportunities for volleyball to be played in the country. So that's what it's all about. We'll have a lot more good stuff coming out the rest of this season. Vincent, anything else to tease the people with, maybe, before we hit him with the show a couple weeks from now?
Oh man, I would like to. We just don't have enough confirmed yet. But Todd J's got something brewing up in Cleveland soon. Huge shout out to the JVA and AAU for what they are working with for us this upcoming season, and we've got a lot of great things coming up very, very soon. But it's hard for me to announce such things right now. But on that note, I mean, we have a place for everybody in the league. There is anyone who wants to be involved as a player, team rep, whatever you want to do. The VLA is open invite. We want everybody to help this thing grow. We are not exclusive. You're not good enough for us. You're not better than us. No, maybe you are. I don't know. If you're not, come help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're better than us, we need your help even more. But the thing is that we're trying to reach everywhere. We're trying to be the volleyball community in the United States with that professional level in mind. But obviously, we're trying to reach basically the adult community, because there's a huge gap between there's college, and then after college there's what? Well, that's what we're hoping to achieve. And we have thousands and thousands of players every single season finishing their college career. Where do they go? Well, I want to go make money, not go to overseas to make $500 a month. So what can I do? I'm this great, it's like we want to give people the opportunity, the everyday guy, an opportunity. So we just join the VLA. We're open for everybody.
Always. And yeah, if you want to play, if you want to coach, if you want to put a team in, if you want to do media, if you want to help us create YouTube content, if you want to write for our website, we've got a couple people doing that for us now, which is amazing. Definitely, I'll put out a call to action for any media help, that if anybody wants to do graphics or video editing or anything you might want to do. If you love volleyball, you believe what we're doing here at the VLA, get in touch with us. Send me a DM on Instagram, send Vince a DM, send the VLA a DM on Instagram, or email us or whatever. Get in touch with us however you can, and we will put you to work. I promise. So that'll do it. Vince, thanks for hopping on.
Delegate.
Yeah, we'll delegate. Yeah, that's something we're good at in this league. Vince, great to see you, dude. Thanks for coming on. We'll be back with another episode of Around the VLA when there is cool stuff to announce. And like Vince said, you can expect that will be sooner than maybe you think. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right, take care.